Good morning, everyone. This is Melanie from Lake Beans Treasures, and this is part of another series of moments in retail. Because when you deal with the public, when you have a retail type position, when you have any type of service position, you are going to encounter some of the strangest stories, interesting, funny, sad. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of stories you are going to have when you interact with the public. And one of the things I've always said to myself is that I want to write a book. And what I started doing was I started on my Facebook, what do you call it, Facebook feed, where I would write a little snippet every day on some interactions I've had with customers. And I realize as they're popping up, these stories sometimes can be the funniest stories. So I want to read to you a couple of stories, and you tell me. Did I handle the situation well? What would you say in situations like this? Am I crazy? Are other ones crazy? I mean, it's funny. So it's Christmas time, and I'm originally from New York, and currently I'm in Texas. And one of the things that they drum into New York is you have to be aware of how many different people there are out there, how many different cultures. There are people who celebrate so many different holidays. So during the time of December, it's always advised to say happy holidays. Being that there's over 40 different holidays during the month of December alone, by saying happy holidays, it covers your basis across any religion or culture or any type of people that celebrate. Here in Texas, however, you can't say happy holidays. I made that mistake. What happened was I was in retail and I started saying happy holidays to people and they went nuts. I can't begin to tell you how many people had to quote school me because that's what they would do. That's another thing that Texans do is they have to educate everybody else. And they'll literally say that you need to be schooled. But they would school me on the proper salutation should it be Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays. And they would be very, very strict about this. It must be Merry Christmas. Do not take Christ out of Christmas. Don't ruin the holiday. So I learned down here in Texas, say Merry Christmas, do not say Happy Holidays. Also, start saying Merry Christmas as early as before Thanksgiving. With me, I used to always start saying Merry Christmas around like this time, the 15th of December. Oh, no, you had to start saying Merry Christmas as soon as Thanksgiving ended. And Christmas music goes up. It's nothing more than Christmas. So that's what I had to deal with here in Texas. A funny story was I had an abundance of Christmas cards. I was working a retail box store and we just had so many Christmas cards. And one of the other stores in the region put out a help. Does anybody have box Christmas cards? So, of course, I reached out because that would benefit both stores. I would get the product out of my store and then they would be able to sell their product in their store. So I reached out to the manager, and this is the first thing they questioned. They wanted to know if it was ethnic Santa Clauses. And I'm like, what? So they thought that I was transferring all of my ethnic Santa Clauses from one store to the other. I'm like, no, these are just regular ho 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 Santa Claus, jolly fat guy in a suit. So they ended up not transferring simply because I questioned what an ethnic Santa Claus was. Is that not strange? I mean, what's wrong with people? And no offense, what difference if it was ethnic Santa Claus? I mean, I don't care. It just so happens I had an abundance of Christmas cards to transfer, and they were more concerned whether it was ethnic Santa Claus or not. And because I even questioned what did they mean by ethnic Santa Claus, they decided not to do the transfer. So you know something? They're lost. They're lost. I mean, it would have benefited both of us, but it didn't. So, I mean, not only do you have to deal with retail from a customer perspective, sometimes you have to deal with retail from your own corporate perspective as well. I get a customer that comes in. This is actually funny. Looking at all the cinnamon gums, staring at them. and says, "Excuse me, do you have any cinnamon gum?" And I'm looking at him because he's staring at the cinnamon gum. And I says, "Well, we actually have 6 different brands." And I start pointing to the different brands of cinnamon. And the customer's like, "No, these are all cinnamon. It's too hot. I don't want hot cinnamon. Don't you have cinnamon that's not hot?" Now, for somebody like me, I totally understand that. Cinnamon to me is very spicy. I do not like hot taste of cinnamon. I don't like cinnamon as well, but that's what they're going to get. I mean, were they looking for like cinnamon cookie, like baked cookie, cinnamon type gum? Not going to find that. If you're going to get cinnamon, it's going to be that spicy hot cinnamon. So I just looked at sheer confusion and I'm like, "I'm sorry, this is the only gum we have." Because yes, cinnamon is going to be spicy gum. Then I had to be schooled again. I thought this was funny. Customer comes up to me telling me that George C. Scott is the greatest actor that ever lived. And who's taking his place right now is Denzel Washington. And I mean, I looked at the customer like in shock. First of all, yes, I know who George C. Scott is. I know who Denzel Washington is. Yes, they are fine actors. Would I say that they're the greatest actors of all time? Not necessarily. But I found it hilarious when somebody comes in with such a thick Texan accent and basically said to me, "Woo wee, Denzel Ball can act." That just added to the sheer funniness of it. Because I'm staring at him and I'm like, okay, George C. Scott is the greatest actor of all time, and now Denzel Washington is taking over his spot as the greatest actor of all time. Can somebody explain that to me, please? I don't know. I just, I really, I don't know. So I guess finally, this is a new term that I learned as well. And maybe you know what this is, but a woman comes up to me looking for booger suckers. And I stare at her. And I mean, these are one of those deer in the headlight moments. Like if somebody comes up to you asking for a particular product and you're just in shock. So she wants booger suckers. And I look completely confused at her. And I'm like, "I'm sorry, can you explain what that is?" I mean, I don't even want to say the word. I don't want to say, "What is a booger sucker?" And she's looking at me like annoyed, like I should know what a booger sucker is. So she says to me, she's like, "The ball." So I realized what she wanted. She wanted one of those rubber nasal irrigation balls that you would squeeze out. They're usually used for like earwax, but she calls them booger suckers. So I don't know. I'll be honest, many times I have lost in translation moments and I try to take the good way out, but it's just when somebody comes up to me with some of these product names that they created for them, would you call it a booger sucker? I don't know. Well, for most people, it's used for the ears, not necessarily for the nose. However, yes, nasal irrigation balls. That's what it should be. But instead, it's now known as booger sucker. So, with that, everyone, that was just a quick story of some of my moments in retail. I hope you enjoy this. Comment below if you like this segment, or tell me if you don't necessarily like this segment. I just think it would be fun to share different stories of me being lost and confused in the world of retail. So, with that, everyone, take care. This is Melanie with Lightbeam's Treasures.